everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are starting a brand new series on this channel. One that I have wanted to watch for a very long time, and I finally am like, you know what? Screw it. We're gonna watch it. So this is Trigun. I said in a previous video kind of previewing this that way back years ago, I was at a comic book convention and there was like a little manga library, and I stopped there for like a hot second just to like take a break, and I saw this manga on the shelf, and I didn't get a chance to really read it because as soon as I sat down, my brother called me and was like, hey, let's go do this. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I put it back on the shelf. But what I remember is that there was a guy in a red trench coat that was blonde, and there was somebody with a cross, and it was in the Wild West. And that's all I remember of Trigun. But I really wanted to watch it, and I thought, well, I'll put it on a retro poll, we'll do this. And then Trigun Stampede has come out, and Twitter has just been like, people been like, blah, 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 and I've had to like shut myself away from it. And I was like, man, I really want to catch up and watch that. But I didn't want to watch Trigun Stampede before watching the OG series because I've been told that they are different enough that it warrants to see the original first. And plus, it's the OG. I'm very much like, let's do the OG first and then the new series after it. So with that being said, I was really excited. And so I am starting off with the original Trigun, and then we'll do Trigun Stampede right after it, right? And I heard a rumor that maybe there's a second season of Trigun Stampede that's gonna maybe be there by the time we get to it. That'd be great. But in any case, I'm excited. I polled Patreon to see if I should watch the dub or the sub. As you can see, the Japanese sub won, according to patrons, although there were a lot of dub fans that were really vocal about it. So I'm going to kind of do like what I did with Death Note. I am going to watch the Japanese sub, but in between episodes, I'm going to watch the dub and kind of talk about it in the reactions with you all. Honestly, I did like someone's argument that you need to watch it in the original Japanese sub to get the full impact of the moment, and the dub is really fun. And I was like, that's a good point. And I was going to watch Trigun Stampede in the sub anyway, so makes sense. So, but I definitely will be going back and rewatching in the dub like I did with Death Note to talk to you all about it in between each reaction. But yeah, so I'm really excited. Other than what I told you all, I know nothing about this show at all. And I'm fine with that. So if you are new to my channel, I do want to tell you all real quick, please do not spoil. Please no hints or clues, things like that. I like to go in blind to these series and interact with them like I'm watching them for the first time. So please no spoilers. I would love to read your comments down below. As long as they're not spoilery, as long as they don't hint anything or give any clues, we should be good. But before I go as well, I want to go ahead and give a quick shout out over to Patreon. On Patreon, I have 3 tiers. The first tier is to vote for shows. I just picked this one, but you people on Patreon voted for the sub or the dub. So voting for shows as well as access to the Discord to talk about this show as we go. Also, I have a $5 tier that allows you to see episodes a week ahead of time from YouTube. So if you want to see episode 2 and you're on YouTube right now, you can go over to Patreon and it's right there. And then the $10 tier is my philanthropy tier. And these are just people who are amazing and said they wanted to donate more money. And I was like, okay, because they're awesome and great and they help me do the things that I love. So I'm very grateful to these people for helping me to just be able to support myself through getting subscriptions to Crunchyroll and other streaming platforms, to pay for the subscriptions for the hosting sites that I use for the reactions, as well as buy the anime and manga that I react to and talk to on this show, and on this channel. So these patrons deserve an extra shout out: Edgar, Dana, Tyrone, Nameless Monster, Anime Annie, Truck Kenny, Arjo, Be Happy, Shimoyama, Translucent Men, Eric, and Sunspots. Thank you all so much. Y'all are amazing, and I'm very grateful for all of your support. All of my love. So with that being said, I'm ready to dive in and see what all is going on with this series. I hope you all are too. I've got a stopwatch up here. I'm going to have the subtitles on there for y'all. Hopefully these will stay in, but I'm sure that they will. But I have no clue what to expect, so I guess we'll find out, won't we? So we're going to watch episode 1 of the OG Trigun, and we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this, y'all. This is going to be a lot of fun. I am already really knowing I'm going to enjoy this series because I was born in the late 80s. I grew up in the 90s, and this series, I feel like it was probably on Toonami or something, like late at night when I was maybe in junior high or high school, and I just didn't stay up that late to watch it. And my parents, my parents only had like one TV in their living room, and staying up late meant being in the living room next to my parents' bedroom at night watching it, and they probably like, go to sleep, you got school tomorrow. So that's probably why I didn't watch this growing up. But I feel like this would have been something I would have been all about. Like, it's combining so many really funky, cool things. It has it's so bizarre because there's this like Western feel to it, right? But then you have like Meryl and Millie, who are from an insurance company, which is the most 90s thing possible. The most 90s thing possible is that they're surveying Vash in order to make sure he doesn't destroy anything else because the insurance company's tired of filing claims. That's so 90s, and I love it. It's hilarious. It's very cynical and hilarious, and like just sort of like satire, really. That who cares about the people that could be dying, which they've said nobody's died yet. No one has died in these incidents. It's just caused a typhoon of destruction. But it's like, we're not worried about the people's lives at risk, but the insurance money. It's like, it's so funny. But it's like on the surface, there's this weird like 90s satire mixed with this Western world. Like there's saloons and everybody's wearing Western gear. But then there's like this kind of steampunk sci-fi quality to it because there's like I've got the OP here, and there's a weird like light bulb coming off a crane, and then you see this like kind of Star Wars science fiction backgrounds that looks very Blade Runner with the color scheme. And then you have like his arm he has a metal arm that's fake, and there's just like extra little elements that make it more than just like a Western, right? It's fascinating. I love Meryl's outfit. Meryl's design is awesome. I love her so far. Millie, I think Millie's kind of cool. Millie has has the trousers and the big Gatling gun. I like it. I'm all for it. But then there's Vash. Like Vash already, I know I'm in trouble because I know that I'm attracted to tall, blonde, blue-eyed characters, and he's got like the bluish green eyes. It's over. Like Vash just has this look. But what's cool about Vash is that we don't get a lot about him. I'm sure I'll be talking about the OP as we go, the $60 billion man. Like, it seems like wherever Vash goes, the trouble follows him. So my theory already is that there's a reason why his bounty is 60 billion, and it's not because he's caused all this destruction, because honestly, the destruction is caused by everybody around him, not by him. He's just trying to like do whatever. And we don't really know what his goal is. He has the bag on his back, but we don't know what else he's going to do. But it feels like something has put a bounty on him to maybe try to catch him and capture him. So maybe the government or something wants Vash for some reason, and that's why they're trying to find him. Like, is there something in the bag that Vash took from like a government facility or something? I mean, there's a sci-fi edge to this, so something's amiss. And so we have to figure out what that is. But I like when shows combine genres like this. It's really nice. And there's just so much that's 90s. The record player, there's like 90s like tech, like the arcade and the jukebox. It feels very 90s, like trapped. It's like a weird mix of eras, and it all works somewhat. You would think it'd be a weird hodgepodge and it wouldn't work, but it does. It has like a kind of weird dystopian vibe to it, which if you grew up in the 90s, you love your dystopian vibes. Right? Everybody thinks Gen Z likes dystopian vibes. I'm like, nah. Millennials, we were all about those dystopian stories. And vampires. But yeah, so the main guy, I don't think we got the name of the boss that has the boomerang. I love the boomerang. The boomerang was really badass. And then, of course, they like knock out everything with the exception of the one place that Vash is sitting at. So they basically talk about, like, I like how they set up Vash being like, messing with Vash is like waltzing with death. And we don't get Vash saying a whole lot. Vash seems like one of those protagonists I'm really going to like in terms of he kind of has this like weird balance of comedic with serious. Like he's, for the most part, he's like 70% comedic at this point. But there's like that 30% when he like gives a look, or like when he's holding the whiskey and stuff, like that's serious. You're like, oh, there's something underneath the surface that we need to pay attention to. And I'm like, his voice actor, I don't know who his voice actor is. It sounded like a cross between Junichi Suwabe and Miyano Mamoru, but I know it's probably not Miyano. This was in 2003. I feel like this manga's from the 90s, and the anime was from 2003, which was 20 years ago. This would have came out, yeah, when I was like in junior high, which is terrifying. Insanity 20 years ago. Huh. But yeah, so we don't know, but we do know that he supposedly picks off. The funny thing is we can't really get much out of Vash and what about him is true from this episode because there's so many unreliable narrators. Like they call him a womanizer. He does not seem to be that. They say that he's just like a humanoid typhoon that destroys everything. Well, not inadvertently. Everybody around him destroys everything and he gets the blame for it seemingly. And they say different things about him that are clearly not true. So it's hard to get a read on Vash in this first episode because there's so many unreliable narrators. We don't really know if we can trust anything that anyone's saying at this point. So what do we do? But yeah, I love the boomerang coming in, and they made a point of saying that like the person could build their entire mansion out of wood. Like wood was a hot commodity. But when you're out there in the middle of nowhere, yeah, it looks like there's not a lot of trees to build anything out of. Most of it's like clay. So interesting. But yeah, I just love typical 90s. It's just like ammo, bullets, guns. We have them all over the place. Like, what do you know? You know, I think that's so funny that it's just like this just collateral and nobody's questioning anything. And then there's Vash. Now, Vash, he has his arm back on there. It looked for a moment like his arm had been taken off, but he put it back on and had just him and the drink at the bar. Interesting. And then we see, I love the shot of him like up against, like where he pushes the glasses up on his face. It's great. The little glasses. It's great. And then we have these guys showing up that look like Mad Max. They just have like all of the gear and the tech. So there's like nuts and bolts sticking out of the one guy with the mohawk. So I'm assuming that maybe technology and like artificial limbs and stuff is not like something that's rare or hard to come by. Like it seems like it could be a pretty common commodity as long as you have some money. So there's so many questions though, like where did Vash, why did he lose his arm? What's the deal? Why is he worth $60 billion? Why is he traveling by himself? Why does he have this like bag of whatever? Like there's so much mystery surrounding him and we just don't know what to do yet. Also, I love these little, they're called Thomases, the little monsters. I joked they were chocobos from Final Fantasy, but interesting. And so we have the sheriff. And he's like, at least he made the Undertakers. Did he have 100 or 200 people die? And they're like, no, 0. The sheriff says, no, there were no fatalities. Countless people were injured, but nobody died. I guess you don't need God for a miracle. They say that twice in this episode. You don't need God for a miracle. Which I'm curious where we're going to go with that, what we're going to do with it. I'm curious. I feel like that's a phrase that is meant to be, if they said it twice, there's a point to it, right? And so the sheriff talks about, the sheriff there tells Ruth Luce, which is a play on Ruthless. Again, that is such a drag name. I now want a drag queen named Ruth Luce. I think that's great. But talking about that he's a short-legged, earringed giant in red, which is not true at all. They say he's like over 12 feet or whatever. Which granted, you have, I like the sheriff's office is completely like destroyed. The desk and stuff still there, but the outside's complete rubbish. It's really funny. It's sad, but it's also really funny. But yeah, so Vash, probably one of the best parts of this episode is that everyone confuses him with someone else. And nobody would believe that this kind of dorky guy that like crawls around like a little spider. I think I've seen that meme before. I think I've seen on Twitter somebody doing the meme of Vash doing a little spider crawl. Glad we got that out of the way in this episode. I'm like, okay, good. That was episode 1. We're solid. But yeah, and so this guy, again, I know I have seen somebody with a cross, carrying a cross on their back, but it wasn't Ruth Luce. But I like that their gun was a cross. It paints a very symbolic picture that the bounty hunters after Vash are like the supposedly like the saintly people, and Vash is supposed to be like this devil, which we, the audience, are probably going to determine that's the opposite case, right? Then we have Lob's Diner, salad and bar, and nobody's playing billiards. Everybody's playing this arcade game, which is freaking hilarious. I feel like it's like the Australian West. And then there's this cat, but we see this cat in the OP, so clearly this cat, like, ends up following them, maybe? And then we have Meryl. Meryl and Millie look like the most stereotypical, like, are they together? Are they a couple? I don't want to stereotype and say that these two ladies are together, but they could be. But I don't know. I feel like Millie looks like every 90s anime girl with, like, she has, like, the Yu-Gi-Oh hair that bangs, the Yu-Gi-Oh bangs that come out and come straight down. I feel like I saw this in countless drawing anime manuals and, like, tried to imitate it. I do love Meryl's character design, though. Meryl's character design is a little bit unique. I like it. Millie looks a little bit more generic, but I love Meryl's design. It's freaking cool. She's like this little short character. It looks like, honestly, Millie and Meryl standing next to each other looks like Levi and Hanji, is what it really reminded me of in this episode. It looks like from Attack on Titan, Hanji and Levi, when you have Meryl and Millie sitting next to each other. That was what I was thinking of, which is a lot of fun. I like that these two ladies kind of subvert, because it was the 90s, and, you know, there's the creepiness of the mohawked guy when they're like, do you want pleasure before death or just death? And I'm like, ugh. But I like that these two women kind of, they don't come across like with the girl boss attitude or the I'm a strong, independent woman, I don't need no man kind of vibe. They're just competent, but they're also kind of very disillusioned by the fact that Vash is who he says he is. They're like, couldn't be him. I love it though. And I love that Millie just casually drops a Gatling gun onto the floor and she's like, oh, pardon me. And then slings it over her shoulder. I'm like, girl is freaking strong. Like this insurance company did not hire slouches for sure. Also, the milk joke they try to tell is gross. I feel like that would go over a lot of kids' heads, but then if you're an adult, you're like, ugh. There's something about Meryl. She just looks like Levi from Attack on Titan in this episode, the way that she's drawn. It's kind of great. I love it. So they're like, what are you innocent looking things looking for the $60 billion man? I'm like, innocent? She's got a giant Gatling gun over her shoulder. I don't know if I'd describe her as innocent. And they're like, we're just here on business. And so they basically describe the one guy with the boomerang as being Vash, and they're above the town, and they've got Vash cornered. And that's what, or they get Vash cornered after he like sticks his head up out of the ground and like ambushes them, and then it fails. Oh my god, it's great because he realizes the gun that was taken didn't have any bullets. And then I love that he just like crawls away like a damn gecko. But honestly, he like saw the gecko and then they shoot him. He's like, persistent, aren't they? I just love his voice actor's voice. Vash's voice actor is just so good, and he just sounds so personable, and we've barely gotten anything out of him. But what Vash kind of gets mad about is that the guy with the mohawk, he throws the boomerang and knocks his own subordinate out. And Vash is like, where's the justice in that? Like, he's on your side, and you guys hurt him. What's the deal? So you can already get kind of the idea that Vash has this big sense of justice, and he's like, we're partners in fate. His happiness is my happiness. And then it's like you can't tell what Vash is saying if it's true or not, because he's like, oh, I can't stand blood, the sight of it makes me faint. And he's looking at this guy bleeding over there. So we're getting little things about Vash in this episode, like the fact that he seemingly doesn't like killing people because he doesn't like seeing blood. He perhaps doesn't like violence. He doesn't seem like he goes around anywhere looking for trouble. Trouble just happens to find him. So I'm so curious. And why do they call him, I'm guessing they call him Vash the Stampede because he's like a stampede. He just mauls over the town. But I'm so curious about Vash's whole existence that I'm curious what we're going to get out of this. And then, of course, he gets taken in by the guys and they're like, we're going to turn him over to the feds. And that's when Meryl and Millie show up on these Thomases, whatever that amounts to. They look so weird with their masks. And so then they go up there. I like that this whole time they're here from the Bernardelli Insurance Society, Meryl Strife. And what was Millie's name? I'm Meryl Strife. And this is Millie Thompson. Yeah, like Millie's name is like the most generic, and then Meryl Strife. I love it. I wonder if Meryl Strife is a play on Meryl Streep. I don't know. I don't know if Meryl Streep was acting at that point. That's interesting. But I love that they brought him donuts. They're like, they just basically, we have this outrageous premise where we're in the middle of the Wild West, seemingly. There's like a bounty of $60 billion on this guy's head. There's mechanical boomerangs being tossed about and guns blazing everywhere. And then these two girls show up and they have donuts and they're like, so here's a token of goodwill from our insurance company. So 90s! I love it! So 90s! It's that type of humor that it would not fly, I don't think, in a modern anime, but this is so perfect for the era it's done. I love it. Smooth, ma'am! And I just love his reaction to the donuts. He's like, what are you doing? I love that Vash took the donuts. He was like, hell yeah, I'll take these donuts. These look amazing. And then Ruth Luce shows up. And he's like the bounty hunter called the Constance Rifle. Like just comes in saying like 3 names for himself. And we're like, what are we supposed to do with this? And then they see the red in his coat. And for a second they think that he's Vash. And it just all chaos breaks loose. And so the girls are like, maybe we should leave. Maybe we should get out of here while the going is good. And we gotta go warn the town that they might be in danger. And then I love that Vash is running alongside him, being like, oh, donkey Shane, like, I got my donuts here, taking away her food. God, I love it. I love it so much. I love it. She, like, takes the donuts back, but then he takes them away again. It's so good. They're like, we're disaster investigators. And then, why are you insurance people after a wanted man? And like, there have been 300 Vash-related disasters. So this has been going on for quite some time, and the insurance company is getting tired of it. And they're like, if this guy can't stop destroying everything and getting caught, then you need to go find him and make sure that he doesn't get in any more trouble. I love that the impetus is, she says, Meryl goes, you can understand what kind of risk an insurance company takes. I'm like, they're just trying to like do all this corporate stuff here. And he's like, oh, that must be rough. Yeah. And she says, that's why we're here to keep him under 24-hour surveillance to prevent further damage. And he's like, wait, what? 24-hour, excuse me? It's just, oh, I love it. It's absolutely hilarious that the whole thing here that starts off this entire series is the fact that an insurance company was tired of all the damage. It has like just enough cynicism to it that it reminds me a little bit of Neon Genesis, just a wee bit, which is fun. But this is a way more fun series than Neon Genesis, at least for now. And so yeah, then the bounty hunters and then make a truce that they're going to split at 70-30 when they get Vash, and they string up Millie and Meryl. And I'm glad they didn't like hang them. I'm glad they just tied them up, and they were supposedly going to kill them, but then Vash comes in. Vash comes in to save them. It's great. And I love the girls are like, well, that can't be him. There's no way. There's no way. Nope, can't be him. Couldn't possibly be. He's too much of a klutz and a weirdo for that. And then he says, I disapprove of suicide more than anything else. So has Vash tried to commit suicide? I feel like Vash is going to be one of those characters that on the surface he seems super comedic and really funny and lighthearted, and underneath that is going to be like a world of pain that I'm not ready for. We're only on episode 1, damn it. Don't be giving me this. No. So I guess we'll find out. But yeah, and he's like, you know, you don't have to do this. You don't have to fire the boomerang. He's just sitting there smiling like you don't have to do that. It has a very Doctor Who vibe to it too, Vash does, because Vash has just this kind of like almost ethereal, immortal quality to him. It's hard to explain, but it reminds me a little bit of Doctor Who. So, I don't know, y'all. But yeah, he fires the boomerang, and then he messes up the guy's arm, and it all comes back, and the boomerang ends up knocking out Ruth Luce. And then from there, he's like, well, my job here is done. And they're like, well, as if it were Vash the Stampede. Because they're like, it couldn't be him. They're like, surely not. Surely it's not him. Couldn't be, right? And then the bomb blows up. There's a little bit of the animation that reminds me of Dragon Ball 2, which would have been around this time as well. So that's fun. And then we go to Lewistown, 40 aisles west from Felnarl. We have determined the landslide which destroyed Felnarl resulted from the illegal use of explosives belonging to a man named Ruth Luce. And then we have Meryl at the insurance office with all the claims and stuff, filing it. That's amazing. Please pay the insurance owed. And she's like, oh, damn it. We're back to less than 0 on our VASH hunt. I'm like, you were right there with him. Girl, you know it's him. I like that the typewriter, they're still using typewriters, but they're like futuristic typewriters. It's funny when you see what 90s assumed would be high tech, because sometimes it's kind of ahead of its time and sometimes it's like way off the mark. And so then she says, we can't ignore the rumors. This is going to be difficult. We're going to be on a wild goose hunt until we can locate him. And then I like Millie with these cool suspenders and the pants is like, what about him? Also note there's only one bed. So are Meryl and Millie together? I don't know. We'll find out. She's like, what about him? And Meryl's like, that couldn't possibly be him. She's like, really? Vash the Stampede? They say with 60 billion on his head. Funny thing is, nobody died. Like the rumors keep circulating, but 2 things remain constant. 1 is that no one's died, and 2, that they say you don't need God to have miracles. And then Vash is on his way, so, I have lots of questions, mainly about Vash, like where did he come from? What's with the fake arm? What's in the bag? What's his mission? Where's he going? We didn't get a lot about him. It was just like setting up the lore surrounding the legend of his character. And then we get Meryl and Millie, who are these insurance reps that are out to find him. So they keep watch over him. So I like Meryl and Millie's characters a lot, and I like Vash a lot. So I have a feeling that those 3 characters I really enjoy so far, and we're only 1 episode in. So I'm going to be curious what we're going to get, if they're going to be like a constant like Team Rocket chasing after him, or if it's going to be like Vash does things and Meryl and Millie kind of show up at the aftermath. I don't know, but I'm really curious to find out more. So I'm excited. I can't wait to see this series and see it unwind and then watch Trigun Stampede after it, but I'm really excited. So I hope y'all are too. This seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. There's lots of fun genre and narrative things that I already really like about it, and so I'm going to be curious moving forward to see what else we get. But in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers, but I'll be back very soon with episode 2 of Trigun. Bye.